Hey folks, welcome back to the Field and Garden Podcast. It's your friend Lisa Mason Ziegler, and thanks for choosing to give us another listen. And y'all, we have a great replay from our Florist Buying Local live show that Ellen Frost and Jesse host over on Clubhouse on Tuesday mornings at 8 a.m. Eastern Time. And we invite you to join them there. I mean, if you have questions that you want to ask, there's a time for Q&A after Ellen shares her words of wisdom. And if you aren't a member of Clubhouse, which is just another phone app, what you should do is just download the phone app, whether you have an iPhone or an Android, there's one for each, and then you join Clubhouse, and then just seek out the Florist Buying Local Club, and you can join that club. And by joining, that means that you'll get notified whenever Ellen goes live or plans an event. You'll get a little notification to let you know about that. And if you've never been a part of this conversation before or never listened to one of the podcasts where we replay it, Ellen is really blazing the trail, sharing her experiences of being a 13-year veteran of using locally grown flowers in her design studio, because it's all different than picking up the phone or going online and ordering from your wholesaler. And each week she's just sharing all these nuggets of different aspects of actual things that she faces, as she talks about this week. And so I just invite you to subscribe to the podcast. We'd love to have you do that, but also to hook up with Ellen on Clubhouse. There is also on Instagram a Florist Buying Local page there, and there's even a private Facebook group called Florist Buying Local. So we're trying to help more and more people in this industry to really find their way to the domestic local growers that are growing fabulous quality and quantity, that are really helping this industry right now as they're facing shortages and disruptions like we've never seen in decades. So let's take a listen. This week, Ellen is talking about teaching customers about seasonality and local sourcing. Let's take a listen.
My name's Ellen Frost. I'm the owner of Local Color Flowers, and we are a design studio located here in Baltimore, Maryland. I am also a course creator and online instructor with the Gardener's Workshop. I have a course that will be registering just pretty soon, November 5th, called Growing Your Business with Local Flower Sourcing. It's only offered once a year, and it's designed to help florists and designers and farmer florists and even farmers sort of learn about local flower sourcing. And if you want to learn more about that, you can check out the Gardener's Workshop website. If you want to learn more about the work we do here in Baltimore, you can find me on Instagram at Local Color Flowers. Or if you want to learn more about local sourcing, you can check out the Instagram of Florist Buying Local Flowers or the Facebook group Florist Buying Local. There's so many places to find me. And Jesse can talk about this, but just a note that this will be recorded. And if you come up to ask questions, you will be recorded.
Okay, hi everyone. Good morning. So I'm Jessie with the Gardener's Workshop, and I'm here to help Ellen out during the conversation and as an admin. And I wanted to let people know, in case you're new to asking questions and that kind of stuff, there's a couple of different ways that you can do it. You can either tap the hand button at the bottom of the screen there to raise your hand, and that brings you up on the stage to ask your question to Ellen. Or if you're not able to do that or don't have time to do that or anything of that sort, you can tap the paper airplane button at the bottom there, bottom right, and that opens up the back channel chat feature here on Clubhouse. If you type my name in there, you will be able to find me and send me a question. And then once we get to that section, I'll be happy to ask it on your behalf. So the only other thing I would mention is that we have a club on Clubhouse where we post our new chats when we're ready to do them. and it's at the top of the screen there, Florist Buying Local, with the little greenhouse. If you click on the greenhouse, it will take you to a page where you can join Ellen's club. And then when she schedules new chats, you'll get a notification. And at that point, if you like, you can add it to your calendar so you don't miss it. And yes, we are recording these. They are being processed into podcasts to be uploaded in a few days to the Gardener's Workshop website, but also anywhere that you get your podcasts, you can find them under Field and Garden Podcast, which is Lisa's podcast, and we're doing special editions for Ellen. Okay, I think that's it. I hope we have a great discussion. Thanks everyone for being here.
All right, everyone. This topic has come up a couple times, and so I thought we could maybe dig into it a little bit more. So I hope that you will add some comments, questions, and make this more of a discussion, because if you've been here before, I can talk for a while and just continue to talk forever. So feel free to ask questions, jump in, whatever. So a lot of people have asked if there is a resource for teaching customers about seasonality. And I mentioned this last week, but I thought we could maybe dig into how to do this. I don't know. I mean, there are resources, right? So people can check out Slow Flowers or localflowers.org, or other websites that talk about seasonal flowers. But in terms of what's the best resource for customers to learn about seasonality, I think that we as designers and farmers are the best resource for teaching our customers about seasonality. And, you know, people have to relearn what seasonality is, because we don't know a lot about seasonality anymore. In the last 50 years, since globalization has really taken a hold and international shipping has become so popular, we don't really know what is available at a certain time of year anymore for food, and certainly for flowers. There was a time when people knew when tomatoes started becoming available, and they knew when tomatoes were going to end. Now you just get tomatoes at the grocery store any day of the week, any month of the year, and people don't necessarily know exactly when in their region tomatoes are available. And this is a food that we eat, all the time, every day. Flowers are a whole different thing, because people are much less familiar with flowers, and certainly less familiar with the seasonality of flowers. And so working with a seasonal product is going to be different. And I am of the belief that it's our responsibility to help re-educate our customers about seasonality. And so how do we do this, right? So this is just going to be kind of a laundry list of things that we do, or we've tried, or I think can work for you as either a farmer or a designer. So first, I would say, is to get yourself educated, right? So as designers who are sourcing locally or thinking about sourcing locally, it's super important for us to become, I talk about this a lot in the class, Growing Your Business with Local Flower Sourcing. It's really important for us to be experts at what we do, to bring expertise to our customers. And in order to be experts, we have to really understand seasonality ourselves. So how can we, if we're just getting started, or even I've been doing this for 15 years, I still am being educated about seasonality. How can we get educated? So first, obviously, buying local. The more local stuff we buy, the more we'll begin to understand, okay, tulips in my region start in March and they end in April. Or ranunculus in my region starts becoming available in February and it ends in May. The more we buy locally, the more we're going to understand seasonality. We can also go visit farms and farmers markets. So the more we are in relationship with flower farmers, the more we will be able to see just more generally, more with our own eyes, what's available locally. Availability lists from farmers are a huge tool for florists to use to learn about seasonality. So get on farmers availability lists that are in your region and start to learn week to week what's available. When do availability lists start going out? When do they end? What is available week to week? So the more we learn, the more we can share that with our customers. The next thing I would say is I know that there may be a perception that buying in season or buying locally is a constraint. And maybe it's a glass half full, glass half empty kind of thinking. But I think that buying in season is amazing. And we have to use all of our marketing platforms or our storytelling platforms to help our customers feel that way too. So, how can we make buying in season exciting, fun, special? First, we can talk a lot about how designing in season reflects what's happening in nature. So, I was trying to think of an example of this because some people won't know exactly what flowers are available right now. So, like, I remember in the fall one year, there was a Martha Stewart magazine cover, and the design was tulips and dahlias together on the cover for the fall. And I thought, that's not right. That looks very wrong to me. And maybe if you didn't know anything about seasonality or local sourcing, you'd be like, oh, that's beautiful. I mean, it was beautiful, obviously, it's Martha Stewart. But tulips and dahlias don't really go together, at least not in our neck of the woods. You wouldn't, it's kind of like you wouldn't wear a tropical floral dress in November, or you wouldn't wear faux fur wraps in August. Like you would know that that looks weird. And so we're trying to like reteach people that things out of season are not in sync, or they don't, to me, look in sync. Also, designing with the seasons rather than against the season is obviously going to be easier for sourcing. And it also is going to celebrate the beauty that is in our region at that time. So, how can we get this information out to our customers, right? So, providing resources to your customers about what's available locally is super great. And you can do this in a million ways. You could just basically put a list on your website of things, maybe by month or by season, that are available in your region. So that's just like a quick visual for your customers to say, oh, peonies aren't available in October, or, tulips are available in the spring. Put that on your website, incorporate that into your marketing resources. We use Pinterest for this tool. So we have Pinterest boards by month or by season. And we do it both by month and by season so that people can have a visual of some of the things that are available. And then we use those tools with our potential wedding clients or with single order clients to say these are some of the things that might be available. It's not everything because every year there's something different, but these are some of the things that might be available. So that's one way that you can provide a resource to your customer. Another thing is when you are sending out email marketing, you can, put a little story or a little ID of things that are available right now. So depending on how often you send out email email marketing, you might do it seasonally, you might do it monthly. If you're really ambitious, maybe you're sending out a weekly email, but always use that to tell people about what's in season, what's going on with the seasons, what's going on with the weather, how that affects what's available. Um, and I would just say this is sort of a side note, but if you are not using email marketing, now is the time to start doing that. And so that just means gathering emails to directly send an email to those people. And the reason why that is so important, and we were reminded of it last week, social media is great. It's a great tool, but we don't own anything on social media. We don't own those contacts. We don't own anything on there. Instagram owns that. Facebook owns that. We don't have the control over those things. And so like last week when Instagram and Facebook and WhatsApp went down, there was 8, 10, 12 hours when those apps were not available. Lots of people were not able to communicate with their core customers because they were not using email marketing. They did not have an email list that they could go to and say, hey, social media is down, but here are our daily specials today. Or social media is down, but the shop is going to be open this time and we have this available. And so email marketing, I am a big proponent of having an email list. And, email lists, you can start small. Just gather emails through your website or on social media or in person at your store or at your farm stand, but start to gather those emails so that you can directly contact your customers when you need to. So that was like a side note about email marketing. What else can you do? You can blog, right? Blogs are great, and you could, we used to have a series of like what's blooming this week, and you could do that on social media too. But just as a way to give your customers some sense of what's available this week in season. And then social media is like a huge topic, but some things I would say that we try to do on social media is to be conscious of the work that we are posting. So we try to post only in season work. And I know, well, that's what we do. And if we are posting out of season work, we are very careful to comment or tell a story about why we are posting out of season work. We never want people to look at social media and say, oh, you posted ranunculus today and it's October, you must have ranunculus available. We're pretty careful about using this tool because it is a tool. It's a tool for us to connect with people, to serve people, to make sales. We want to be careful that we're using that tool responsibly and teaching people about seasonality through using this tool. So we are careful to try to only post in season work. Another thing you can use social media to do is, if you're a designer, to share the processes that your growers are going through. So like coming up, our winter growers are just starting to plant their tulips. So this is a situation where we would post pictures of bulbs or pictures of our growers planting those bulbs and letting people know that these are going to be available at Christmas or for New Year's or going into the beginning of the year. So sharing your growers' process, I think, is a great way to help teach people about seasonality. And then just to like think about, I always think like social media, we always try to be careful about consistent messaging there. So we really do try to, there's theories about social media that you should come up with. Again, this is sort of a little bit off topic, but that you should have maybe 5 topics that you share about on social media. So for instance, if you're a designer that sources locally, that could be like local sourcing, wedding work, subscription work, and relationships with your growers. I don't know, those could be 4. And then you sort of rotate through those those topics so that your social media is sort of consistent in its messaging. Like for us, we wouldn't be necessarily posting pictures of like me on vacation. That is not consistent with the messaging of our social media. And it's not, for us, it's not using the tool the way we want to use it. So use your social media to really highlight what's in season, to share what's in season so that people are really getting consistent messaging. Let me take a break because I could go on and on about seasonality and how great it is and all these things. But let's see, does anybody have questions? Who is sourcing locally and helping to educate their customers about seasonality? I'd love to hear some of your experiences or the challenges about teaching people about this. You know, it's never easy to tell people that things are not available. We really try to focus on what is available and sort of decrease the emphasis on what's not available. So yeah, let me hear your questions, comments. What do you got, people? Let's hear from you.
Oh, Ellen, I've got a question that came in on the back channel if you want to take that.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. I have a follow-up question on the availability lists from Rose, and she's wondering how detailed those normally are. Would you see a flower, the variety, the colors, and numbers of each, or are you talking about something more general in this case?
Nope, I'm talking about those specific availability list details. So one of the best ways that I have learned about seasonality and about what's available locally in our region is really consistently reading and studying availability lists. So, right, availability lists come to us generally with a picture of the flower, the name of the flower, the color, the stem length, the number of stems available, and then maybe any description about that flower. And so, what I can learn from that, I can see from week to week, okay, there's some things that are, you know, locally available, seasonally available for just 1 week or 2 weeks, unlike something that might be available for several months. So, like for instance, um, mock orange. Mock orange is like a super hot branch here. Everybody loves mock orange. Everybody wants mock orange. And I have been getting availability lists from farmers for 10 plus years. So I can go back and look, okay, on average, this is about when mock orange is available, and it was only available for 1 or 2 weeks. So if I were wanting to use that, I could sort of go back and look at those availability lists. Something like dahlias, you know, whether dahlias start the last week of May, the second week of June, that's not like super important to me, but I generally have a sense from availability lists of when those start for each grower and then when those end for each grower, because now I'm getting availability lists from growers. I mean, this is what, October 19th, and dahlias are really starting to slow down. So we're seeing less and less availability. And within, you know, a week or two, dahlias are probably going to be done. So as a designer, I want to use those availability lists to learn what growers have available and to really understand sort of the seasonality of each product. They're a great tool. I mean, the growers who send out availability lists, they're using it to generate sales, and we use it to buy things, but it is also a really great learning tool for designers, especially designers who are new or designers who are used to buying from a wholesaler. This is a great way to learn about what is seasonally available.
Okay, and I did have one other question that came over on the
Mm-hmm.
back channel. Um, this is Anne. She's looking for Ellen's advice on playing the long game mentally and emotionally. I think that's something you've brought up a couple of
Mm-hmm.
times. You know, when so many
Yeah.
people in the business think that this approach isn't, you know, profitable or isn't possible.
Yeah. Thanks, Anne, for that question. I think that this topic or this issue is so important, and it is like, especially for new designers, I don't know, we're just like in a world where everything is on demand, right? Like everything is fast and at our fingertips, or, it was maybe before COVID. Um, and I think that in this business, for me, I mean, I can just share my experience. Um, I always went into things thinking thinking about the long game. Right from the beginning, I thought, well, maybe I can. When we started, we had 3 farmers that we worked with. And I wasn't like in those first years when we only bought from 3 farmers, I didn't feel like panicked. I didn't feel anxious. I didn't feel like the business was going to end. I just thought, I'm playing the long game. And so, how can I build relationships with more farmers so that in 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, we have more growers? Um, there was the same with winter growing. It certainly still is the fact with winter growing. I still am always taking the long game. Um, Last year, this is like a really random example, but like last year, we always are having problems with, not problems, but challenges with winter growing. We always want to have more winter growers. So last year, sort of at the beginning of the winter, I asked some growers that grow in the winter if they wanted to have like a little meeting on Zoom about winter growing. I didn't really even know what it was, or I wasn't really sure even what I was trying to get out of it. I just wanted to hear from growers who grew in the winter what it was like, what their challenges were, why they thought more people weren't doing it, how maybe we could encourage more people to do it, um, with the hope that maybe somewhere down the road, I don't know, maybe the ASCFG would offer some classes on winter growing, and then people would take those classes, and then in some years there would be more winter growers. I mean, that's a long game, right? That is like serious long game. Um, and I just think like for me, I never try I don't I never get down about the long game because I'm in it for the long haul. Um, it might be challenging, like last year with COVID was really hard for the winter sourcing for us. It was just a really bad year, with access to, not a lot of access to growers. Um, but I still felt like, okay, you know, this is just today, this is just now, this is just this winter, and we can pivot our business to fit what is available, and then hopefully, like long term, there'll be more available. Um, I think the frustration comes from, at least on the designer side, when people are new and they don't have those relationships built up, and so they feel frustrated that more isn't available to them quickly. You know what I mean? If you buy from a wholesaler, there's not much of a relationship. I mean, there is a relationship, but you can sign up for a wholesale account and the next day you can buy something. It might not be like that with local sourcing or with local growers. So I don't know. I don't know if that helps, or really that's just like my experience, but um, feeling like I was always going to be in it for the long haul made it not as stressful to me. Um, if I thought, oh, I'm going to try this for a year, and if after 1 year it doesn't work, then I'm going to go get an office job or something. Then I might feel more panicked, like, oh my gosh, I have to make this work. I have to have these growers. I have to have these relationships. There's not a lot available. Um, but I always see each year as a chance to grow, and to use more things and to meet more growers. And um, so I don't know, try to have eye on the prize, long-term goals, and make the most of what you have available now.
Yeah, and if you don't mind, I would like to just add something real quick to that.
Yeah.
I, I think that, sometimes frustration comes from not having a clear foundational understanding of why you want to do this. And I think that, it can help to, take some time to think through, what your long-term goals are and how sourcing locally fits into those goals. And, if you can, come up with an idea of where you want to end up eventually, that gives you something to work towards when you start to feel some frustration or encounter some obstacles, of that sort. And I think that what you might end up with is, a strategy that allows you to overlook um, some of that stuff, at least in terms of the emotional impact, and maybe get down to a better appreciation for the process that you go through over time, the active relationship building, and the act of reaching out to individual customers to educate them, and having that, building those things into what your main goal is, so that they don't seem cumbersome, but instead they feel like part of what you're there to do.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. And I would just say, um, in our Growing Your Business with Local Flower Sourcing class, we have an entire class about understanding your why, and how we go through exercises about how to develop that why, so that you are really clear about, right, why you're doing it. And I think Jesse's exactly right that understanding your why um, can help, I think, overlook some of the more frustrating pieces. Because if you're committed to, I mean, for us, like, we are committed to local sourcing. That has always been part of what we're doing. And because of that, like, a lot of the things we can kind of blow off is not a big deal. So yeah, I think you're right.
So I don't have anything else on the back channel right now.
I think, let's see, Anne raised her hand. Let's see if I can add
Oh wait,
her.
I do. Yeah, I do have one more, so I'll wait until after you bring your
Okay,
person up.
let's see if that
Okay,
worked.
did you? Okay.
Well, oh yeah.
Am
Hi,
I here?
Anne. Yeah, you're
Good
here.
morning, Ellen.
Hi.
I'm going to make this quick because I want other people to have time to get their questions in. Um, wanted to follow up on this is a relationship business, and you have been a master at appreciating and building relationships with your farmers. Um, I would like you to talk about your Dahlia experience because I built a relationship this year with an up and coming young floral designer who's small but committed to buying locally. And she was so proud with the few weddings she had. She's just getting started, but she was able to source dahlias locally from us for her brides. And she was so incredibly proud. But it is a relationship that we built over the past year. And it was where everything she did with putting her heart into really trying to move her business to sourcing locally. And she felt like it paid off this fall. We both felt so good. I felt good as the farmer. She felt good as the designer, with being able to bring dahlias because that has been one of the more difficult flowers this season. So I'd love for you to share. You were in the round table last week being able to source dahlias, which, as this designer told me, people have had such a hard time this season doing that. Thank you.
It's so great to hear that story, and that both of you, like, it's a win-win for both of you, that you both felt proud of the work that you did, both growing dahlias, providing them for the designer, and then having the designer be able to offer those to her clients. Um, that's the goal, right? That's the win-win. That's what we want all relationships to be like. Um, yeah, dahlias, I would just say, are like for us, at least in this region, we're in zone, I don't know, 7A, 7B, depending on where you are in Maryland. Um, and dahlias are pretty much a staple for us, for from local farmers. And certainly dahlias shipped in from the wholesaler or shipped in from other places, a lot of times are not great quality. Dahlias, in a lot of cases, don't ship very well. So the fact that local growers have those available and can make those available to designers is really special, especially during fall wedding season. They are really our go-to focal flower during the fall. And so I think that's great. I think for us, almost all of our growers have dahlias, so we have to be um, thoughtful and careful about how we source our dahlias. Like, you know, all dahlias are not created equal, I would say. And so um, some growers have like many more varieties, many more colors. Some have fewer varieties, but maybe they're taller, or there's lots of sort of defining factors. So we buy dahlias from lots of growers, and you will see those in literally every design that we make in the fall. Um, Last week, we bought close to 2,000 stems of dahlias from our growers. They were really inundated with dahlias last week, and so we tried to help move those both through weddings and our weekly orders and our weekend sales. And yeah, it's great. And so I guess besides dahlias being fabulous and an awesome local product, I would just highlight again what Anne said, that the way that relationships between farmers and florists work best is when everybody feels like they're winning, right? Like everybody feels appreciated, everybody feels creative, everybody feels um, like the customer is happy and everybody had a part in that. And that really is like relationship building, right? That is the work of the farmer florist relationship. And I'm just so happy to hear that that is working out for you, and I hope that that continues, and I hope that everybody listening gets to experience that kind of relationship between farmers and florists. It's really terrific. All right,
Okay,
Jesse, you
Ellen.
said you had somebody.
I do. I have one other question on the back channel here, and they're wondering, this is Gina, she's wondering if you have any book recommendations for thinking outside the box in terms of seasonality design. She's in zone 4B, so that's, a pretty,
Yeah,
yeah, pretty cold by comparison to where you are. So I
yeah,
didn't know, I know you love books, but I didn't know if maybe you might have any
sure.
feedback for her.
Okay, two things. One is not a book, but if you are not listening yet to the Sustainable Flowers podcast, start listening to that podcast. Those are two Canadian farmers that are in maybe a similar zone, Boreal Blooms, and I can't think of the other farmer's farm name. But the Sustainable Flowers podcast, they're terrific. And while they are not focused specifically on design, they do have designers on sometimes as guests, but it's great to hear them talk about, for me, right, like flowers that we can't grow here, or the seasonality of that region. So, like they have ranunculus right now. If you follow them on Instagram, you can see that too, for Canadian Thanksgiving. So I don't know, like for me, like having ranunculus right now is just like blows my mind. Um, so Sustainable Flowers podcast, definitely check that out. And then there's a book, Ariella Chazar has a book that is called, I'm just looking it up right now. It's called, I think she has a couple that would work, but there's one called Seasonal Flower Arranging. And that is a great, it's a design book that I really like. Um, she's got another one called The Flower Workshop, Lessons in Arranging Blooms, Branches, and Fruits. Both of those I think are good for in-season um, design, thinking about design in season. Certainly Florette's books are great too. She has sort of a focus on local sourcing. But I think Ariella's books are a little more fine-tuned in that way. So those might be a couple to check out.
Great. Thank you, Ellen. I don't see any more questions over here for this morning.
Anybody else have any comments or questions that they'd like to add this morning? I know this is a topic that this is a long game topic for sure. So thinking more about seasonality and how we can all be educating folks is something that's going to, take a while to make that happen. All right, anybody else? All right, thanks everybody for joining in this morning. We'll be back next Tuesday. I'll let you know what the topic will be. If anybody has any ideas or suggestions for topics that you'd like us to talk about, feel free to send me a message on Instagram. Again, that's at Local Color Flowers or at Florist Buying Local Flowers, and we'll consider that topic. We want to make this conversation as useful and helpful to everybody as possible. So yeah, feel free to reach out. And everybody have a great week. Have fun with flowers, and we'll see you back here next week. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Ellen. Thanks.
See
Bye,
ya.
everyone.
So there you go, friends. More words of wisdom. There's not really any equal value other than someone's firsthand experience. And I think one of Ellen's strong suits is she is quite an organizer, and she is just really plowing through these just so many different parts of florists buying local or designers buying local. Whether you're a flower farmer looking to sell more to this group of people, or you're on the other side of the fence where you're the buyer and you just don't know where to connect, how to connect, and how to make it fit your business model. And I'm just so grateful that we have Ellen of Local Color Flowers to help us figure out this pathway. So friends, if you want to learn more about Ellen, Local Color Flowers is her company or her business name handle over on Instagram, as well as she is one of the instructors for our course that is all about growing your business with local flower sourcing. And her once a year annual registration comes in November, so don't miss that opportunity. And I would highly recommend you visiting thegardenersworkshop.com, going to her page, and just sign up to get on our wait list. Not only does that mean we're going to give you an email when registration opens, we're going to send you any resources from her that can help you in your business. So friends, until we meet again, ciao.